let's move on to the main four.
Okay, let's do it.
I've got them as the Strode women. Because I've included Michael in this too.
Plus
because
Michael.
I didn't know where to put Michael,
Yeah,
so he's in this group, and we're going to talk about him all. Let's start with Laurie. Let's start with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, it sounds weird, but let's get it out of the way, right? She doesn't do anything in the movie, which is fine. She really doesn't. I mean, she spends the whole movie in the hospital. Reminds me a lot of Halloween too. Although this time she's not getting chased
the logo
around.
is the same.
Yes.
Yeah, and I
kind of fun.
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis is great. I'm okay with her taking a back seat in this one. It bothered me not at all. I think it actually works quite well. I don't want to get Laurie fatigue. I'm sure she's going to be the main focus of the third movie. I think the scene she shares with Will Patton are really great. I think the two have really good chemistry. I'm excited to see those two work together again. I buy into her convictions, and I love the idea that she thinks she's important to this and she's not. And we already kind of, in my opinion, established that in 2018. Maybe they didn't. They certainly didn't firmly tell you that. I already got the vibe in 2018. He didn't give a shit about Laurie. The only reason he happened to be at Laurie's house at the end is because he was following Allison. And they confirmed that in this. Like, yeah, no, he was in the car. Like, he got driven there because Sartan's crazy ass thought that you mattered. You don't matter. So I really like that we at least hammered that home.
So, yeah, this movie does hammer home the fact that this series is, and it's, like you said, like, the first one is more about how it's not about her for Michael. This one is her, like, accepting, like, it's her internalizing, like, it's not about me.
Yes, yeah. and there is that. One of the things that you and I both liked about Halloween 2018 was that victim mentality of, like, oftentimes the victimizer forgets their victims. They don't care. It's the person who has to live with it and who dwells on it is the victim. In this case, Laurie. And that's the way it's been. Her life has been more traumatized and destroyed by that night in 1978 than Michael's has. He's doing fine.
So it does, and it starts at, and I think I really like the way it starts. It shows her at the beginning. She's at the mercy of outside forces from the start because when we're introduced to her, she's bleeding to death in the back of that truck, and she's screaming like "Let it burn, let it burn!"
Yeah.
As these firefighters go to do their job. She's helpless as they go to save Michael Myers, who she just attempted to kill. So she's helpless there. Then we get her in the hospital. She's completely at the mercy of the hospital, keeping her alive and keeping there. So she is constantly passive in this movie. Like she doesn't do anything. And I think some of it is them, because this wasn't originally meant to be a trilogy? I think they stretched some of this out to kind of fit it into.
They had an idea for 2 movies, I think.
That's how I read it too.
Said,
so some of it is that.
You can feel that a little bit.
The other thing too I really liked about the Laurie stuff in this is, so there's the idea of the final girl. And it's taken hold in horror movies. It's taken hold in horror criticism. It's taken hold in a lot of ways. And a lot of that is due to Halloween. It's due to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
It's due to all of those slashers that kind of came from that time period and those that followed. The thing is, that term didn't become accepted until like 1992 with Men, Women, and Chainsaws, the book by I believe Carol J. Clover. And so like that stuff came, that final girl, quote unquote, I think a lot of it came from Scream too, with because the way Scream commented on it, and that book, like this is a burial of that idea, like that she's the final girl, like that there is no final girl. Like just because there is a final girl in these horror stories,
just because you survived doesn't mean you're special.
Yes,
like, you just got lucky and that is also kind of, I think, a reason for what happens with Lindsay earlier in the movie. Like she in most slasher films, she would have been killed in that sequence, and that would have been the end of Lindsay in the movie. We've watched all these other people get killed already. She survives, and that's just it for her. Like she's not special. There's nothing. She just lived. She was one of the ones who lived. So, yeah.
I talked a little bit about the generation clash too, and how. But the other thing, I do like where we leave Laurie going into part 3, which is she's failed.
Yeah,
like she is completely failed. Like this is go back to Star Wars. This is Empire Strikes Back.
Yes,
Michael has won.
She spent her entire relationship with her daughter destroying her relationship with her daughter to keep her safe from something that she thought was going to happen that has now happened, and her daughter's dead.
All right.
Like there's no, I mean, you can't fail worse than that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anything else, or do you want to move on to Karen?
No, I'm ready.
All right, Karen played by Judy Greer. I love Judy Greer. I'm not a huge Karen guy.
Karen sucks. I love Judy Greer. Karen in the first movie is just like, she's just kind of mean to Laurie all the time, and I get it, but because we don't get enough of what she went through as a kid and what her life has really been like because of her mother's obsession, and because her mother's proven right relatively quickly in the movie, we never get a chance to really like Karen or like side with Karen on anything. She's just kind of being a wedge in between. She's being a wedge in between her mother and her daughter unfairly because of her mother having issues with her. It just, I never like Karen. She just seems like I don't know. She never really gets to say or do anything or dwell on the fact that like her husband was brutally murdered this same night. Like, I just
she blames it on Laurie too, and
it's weird. Yeah, I don't know.
She wants Karen wants to believe, she's convinced herself, she's lied to herself, like that the world at its core is like good and decent. She wears a Christmas sweater on all the time, like during Halloween, to kind of prove that point. And like there's Karen refuses to accept the fact, and Laurie probably goes too far. I mean, she does go too far.
Of course,
yeah. And I think the movie makes that point too. And maybe Allison is a good in between for them, but she's taken the opposite side of the spectrum of Laurie, where she's just like, no, everything's fine, people are good all the time. It's Christmas every day.
I'm not a huge Karen fan. I love Judy Greer. I think she's great and everything, and she's good in this too. The character just has never really done anything for me. I'm sad to see her get killed, obviously. I certainly didn't.
She's like, but her death is like because you said they drive home the point that it's not about Laurie anymore. She represents, because she thinks it's about Laurie too. She's like the Halloween fans that are like, no,
kind of.
That's his sister, and like so they kill her.
Yeah,
and they kill her like Janet Leigh in Psycho. And
they echo she dies exactly where Judith Myers died.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's that too.
Allison, played by Andi Matacek.
I like her a lot.
Yeah.
She's another character who she has a lot to do in the movie, especially in like the third act or whatever. Mm-hmm. But she also doesn't have a lot to do in the movie. She's just kind of like aimless for the most part, for the first hour or so of the movie. This movie just is spending its time focusing on these side characters and spending this time focusing on the Tommy stuff and really shifting its focus off of who we followed in the first movie. And that's fine. And I think part of that is kind of padding this whole thing out into 3 movies a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see once again where this character goes, especially now that like she's lost literally both of her parents in one night. God, both of her parents and her boyfriend and multiple of her friends, her best friend, and I mean like her life is over. Like it's been annihilated in less than 24 hours. So I'm curious to see how they check back in with her. I like the actress quite a bit, and I thought she might actually get killed off at the end there. I wasn't sure. I thought it could happen. I'm like, man, they could really go for this. This could be the event that brings Judy Greer and Jamie Lee Curtis's characters united under one cause, I guess. But no, yeah, I like her. We don't get an Allison's what is that? The shape stalks Allison theme in this movie as much. There's one bit that's
at
really
the
good.
end with her though.
That's right.
Yeah, the music at the end where Michael is chasing after her and Cameron.
Okay, yeah,
is really
that's right.
really good.
There's one really weird soundtrack bit in this where I was like, "Whoa, this is not."
Yeah, it's weird. I don't.
Nikki mentioned it, didn't she? Where she's like, "Oh, I don't like that."
The score isn't as memorable, I think, in some ways in this one, but
it's less Halloween-y.
Yeah, the second one kind of hit me a little bit. It hit me a little better.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned the complete. So this one, you're right. It shifts the focus away from that Strode trio.
Right.
I've seen a lot of complaints about that,
and I understand that. That can be unsatisfying.
Yeah, and she is the one where I agree with it because
you wanted more of her.
When I watched 2018, I kind of like when we get away. I've mentioned Laurie fatigue. She's like my Luke. She's like my Skywalker.
She's the strongest part of
I like the stuff that focuses on her and her friends
Agreed.
in 2018. I want less of the podcasters. I want maybe a little bit more streamlined Laurie, and I want less of Karen too. But I understand Karen's isn't necessary. I want less of the podcasters. Basically, I like spending time with the kids, and this is kind of a common thing throughout a lot of like what I throughout time. I kind of want to see these stories, and I'm hoping Scream does this a little better. Well, this was a complaint I had with Scream 4, is I'm fine seeing the older generation, but I kind of want to see like kids today deal with these monsters from.
You want to see a legitimately modern, a modern version of what we've seen before.
Yeah,
like in all those ways. That includes also focusing on the modern teenager.
Yes,
that's okay. That's good. I agree.
And I think also what's interesting about Allison as well, she's part of the school shooting generation. She's part of this generation that's been kind of bludgeoned by.
There's a desensitized thing.
Desensitized too. And like, I mean, they've had to grow up very quick in some way. So when she's confronted with Michael, she handles it better.
Yeah.
Than her mom and her grandma. Like she's a little bit. She's better equipped to handle these things, and she still sees. She gives a speech. She is kind of a nice in between Laurie and Karen, where she does see people in the town. She even says it. What this town has become, but they're decent people that when she's around them.
Right.
And I think that's where some of the more, I guess, overt political stuff comes in too, because I mean, Michael is meant to represent a certain person in some ways, throwing people into chaos. I would say not even a certain person, just a
no. I think it can just represent. He can represent what an event or a person or anything that all it takes is a force of some sort to get people fired up enough to make really bad decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Michael.
Let's do it.
He's played by James Jude Courtney, Nick Castle, and Aaron Armstrong. I think Aaron Armstrong played the 78 version.
I think so. Yeah, it's a different actor.
Yes.
I don't know where Nick Castle popped up in this one. He's only in one scene.
He might be credited too, maybe as like, if we get some, I'd have to go back and watch some shots of like breathing too. He might be credited.
Okay, he's only in one shot of 2018.
He's credited in this one. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know where he is.
My guess is he's in it, but I don't know where it would be.
Michael is hilarious in this movie. We touched on that. He's also pissed off in this movie.
He's real, especially at the end. Holy smokes!
I've talked a little bit about how I think he's like the scariest in some ways since part one. What do you think of Michael?
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. I really want to. I'll be honest. There's one thing I want to get into with you with Michael, and it's the supernatural thing.
Yes.
So like I said, the mission statement has been drowned, lit on fire, put through a wood chipper, and buried deep within the earth at this point. That mission statement from 2018.
What do you mean by the mission statement?
This is not a back to basics, like grounded, real man Michael Myers, who's just a really scary, regular guy he's not a that's one of the things that he's not a supernatural force anymore. He's not, we're getting away from that, and we're not making him this larger than life monster like Jason. We're getting back to he is that again now. Like there's
I guess I mean
he's getting hands blown out. He's lost 2 of his fingers, and he's
maybe where I guess I disagree a little bit.
He should be dead.
On the mission statement thing from 78 though, because he gets shot a lot.
Oh no!
At the end of 78, so he's a supernatural force.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that. What I'm saying is, this is the mission statement from the 2018 thing, from the same team that made this movie. Of like, we want to get Michael back to the grounded, like he's just a regular guy who snapped one day. He's not some sort of, Rob Zombie hulking tyrant monster, unkillable, yada yada yada, and that like.
So I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I guess my thing is, if we're getting back to 78, I think the stuff that this gets gets back to more of the 78 version and less of the Rob Zombie version is that nature, like that nature.
Sure.
Because Rob Zombie dug into the reasons why he became. And
Michael
I agree
Myers. With you. This is the pure evil Michael, which I prefer. I don't want a reason for it.
This is Michael Myers' Jaws.
Love
just
that.
Death. So
love that. I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
On that. My thing is, they spent so much of 2018 mentioning how like. Michael Myers is just a man. He's just a man. He's just a man.
Right.
And maybe that was in an effort to show you that characters are not understanding that Loomis was right and he's more than a man. Maybe that was the point here, was like to drive home the naivete of these characters that don't understand what Laurie understands and what Loomis understood and what even Hawkins understands, that he's not human. He's not
right.
There's something that's cool and all, but we've gone, and I'm not complaining about it, honestly. I'm just saying we're back into,
yes,
like he is we can agree that there is no way he survived as a human being. He's survived what he's been through at this point in these two movies.
I guess I don't need moving forward.
Yeah.
Where I think the sequels maybe trip up a little bit for me is they started to focus on, well, we've got to give an explanation.
I don't want that.
I don't need that. I don't need Cult of Thorn. Like,
no.
I can accept and I can internalize, like, no, he's just a force of evil.
He is the embodiment of evil in a physical form.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's all I want. I hope they don't do any more than that. I'm a little nervous they're going to.
Okay.
And my only reason for being nervous for that is the window thing.
Okay.
I'm nervous about this, Tim, because
I do want to talk about that, too.
They've got a plan for this.
See, but I don't know if the plan isn't done, because we talked a little bit about Michael's internal logic, and
there is one.
There is one, and the window thing doesn't.
Which in some ways goes against the pure evil thing. In some ways, right? Because if he's got a logic and he's thinking and there's gears turning, then there's a part of him that is,
but there is still a human part of him as well.
True.
Right. I think with the window thing is really interesting to me, because it plays into the fact that Michael wants to go back to that window for whatever reason. We don't know what it is. He knows what it is. Maybe that's not even in his head. Maybe that's instinctual. Maybe that's just a place he wants to go back to. That's the thing is. So the thing about Michael too with this movie is, like, the whole thing is, they mention it many times, like, Michael wants to go home. And I don't know what home means. There's part of me, like, Michael wants to go back in the womb. Like, Michael never wants to exist. Like, there's part of
that's
me
interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I like that.
Because they say it a lot in this movie.
That's interesting. I don't know. I feel like they're going to explain this, and I mean, some explanation is okay, I guess, to a certain extent, but I don't want it over. I don't need it. I'd prefer it not be, and I'm worried that they're going to be too tempted to, like, give people some sort of resolution.
An explanation.
So my thing with it is, I've heard some people also complaining. I don't care that much, but you see this stuff about, like, oh, well, if his whole goal is to just make it back to his room, why is he going around and why doesn't he just walk to his house and stand in front of his window? Well, that's dumb. Okay, calm down for a second.
Yeah,
that's not what they're doing. The point here is he killed his sister in 78 in that room right in front of that window, and so that, for whatever reason, that first kill is a special something. They did say in this, though, that she was in front of the window. Mm-hmm. It's almost like he killed her because he wanted to get the elf out of the way. Almost, right?
Right.
But anyway, so the time he broke out in 78 and the time he broke out now, it's not that he's trying to make his way back to his home so he can stand in front of a window all night. It's that when he feels he's done killing, when whatever switch is flipped in his brain that tells him he's going to kill people is switched off, that's what he does. Is he goes and he stands there.
He goes and
it's almost like a reboot.
Yeah, like in a video game where, like, you maybe go sit down for a minute and your health recharges.
Yeah, kind of, right? Yeah. It's weird. Yeah. So I don't know what they're going to do here. I don't know. They could get as wonky and as crazy as, like, well, you see, there's a history of violence in that house, and it's been plaguing the house for generations, and he's just one in a line of many people who have lived there that have committed murders. They could do some stupid bullshit like that where it's the house, right? Or something along those lines where you try to give some sort of explanation for it. I pray they don't do that. Or they could just make it Michael he's a weird cat.
Well, you can even do. I mean, I don't want them to do this. I'm just projecting this onto the movie right now, because you could even explain it away. And there's a religious reading of this too, if you want. If Michael is some sort of demon or some sort of, like, Satan incarnate on Earth, like, what the demons want, what Satan wants, they want chaos.
Sure.
They want people to...
And when the job is done...
they are done. And Michael is, like, he emerges from the flames of hell in this movie. Like he walks out like he's emerging from hell.
Insane.
So if you want to even look at it that way, like maybe he is some sort of demonic force that, and maybe it's all in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, the other thing too is I texted you after. This reminded me a little bit. This didn't remind me much of a Carpenter movie.
No.
It reminded me in some ways of a Romero movie.
Yes.
This
felt more Romero than Carpenter to me.
I texted Day, but then the more I thought about it, maybe I'm thinking Night, because what I'm thinking is they refer to Michael as like a virus in this movie.
Yeah.
Like he's running around killing people, and
that's almost the more dangerous aspect of Michael. Is it's less about the actual physical body count. He's
28, by the way,
which is formidable.
Yes.
But it's more about what he's doing to people mentally.
And that's what's scary about Night is what gets them in trouble a lot of times is them arguing in the house.
Yes.
And so that it's people arguing with each other. And so that's maybe why this in some ways reminds me of Night, is because
I get that.
There's not much you can do to hide from the virus that is Michael Myers. You can go after him, he's going to kill you.
Yeah.
You can try to hide, he can kill you. Maybe all you can do is be like Lindsay and hide and maybe get lucky.
Maybe.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean you're special still.
So that's where I'll ask you, where do you want to see Halloween Ends go? And then we'll wrap it up.
Where do I want to see it go? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm ready for just be taken on the ride at this point. This has certainly not panned out the way I thought it would. I think it's been a pleasant surprise in certain ways. I think it's been a little bit... There have been some elements of disappointment with it. But overall, I'd say I've enjoyed the ride. This time around, I think that he stated that it's picking up some years after this film, which was not the original plan.
Right.
Before the pandemic shut down the back-to-back filming production schedule. I think they were all going to take place on the same night was the original plan. But now that he had some time to refine his ideas and decide... I want a road movie with Will Patton and Jamie Lee, and Allison can come along for sure. And shoot, even if Lindsay Wallace wants to come along, that's cool too. With them traveling across the country, trying to find Michael Myers as he makes like a cross-country murder spree through small towns.
Yeah.
And then eventually tracing him back all the way back around to Haddonfield again, I guess. And because you have to have the finale in Haddonfield. You got to.
I think so too.
That's one of the little things I think that where H2O is not able to accomplish that these movies have been able to in terms of being a closure for the Laurie character and the Michael Myers character is that whole movie takes place in some prep school that has no connection or relation to the events of that first movie or the second movie. So it feels a little bit... It's certainly emotionally connected because we have Jamie Lee, but it doesn't feel... There's no sense of nostalgia or that you get with these because at least we get the familiarity of Haddonfield and the Myers house and stuff like that. So I hope the finale takes place in or outside the Myers house. I hope it ends with the Myers house burning the F down. I do. But
yeah. So
I also hope it doesn't end with Laurie dying. I don't need that anymore. I'm done. We've done this before.
Yeah.
I actually would prefer that she achieves her goals and lives some semblance of a happy existence. Is that too much to add? I'm cool with that.
No, that is, and so that's what I'll say. That's all I want from how I think I texted you this too. I want it to end with maybe when Will Patton can join her, Hawkins can join her. I want this to end with Laurie moving out of Haddonfield,
getting the F out.
Maybe to some island, maybe to Florida. Like maybe she finds
getting rid of her guns. Finally,
finds if she's moving to Florida, she shouldn't have to. But
that's true.
But maybe she finds some nice sunny place to settle down and live out the rest of her days and try to be happy with like someone like Hawkins,
knowing for a fact that he's dead.
Yes,
no question.
Right.
He's dead. It's over.
Right.
Agreed.
Right. Or at least in her mind,
it's enough.
She's like, he's dead. And then we can hit the Halloween music and we can show and call back to that first Halloween show. Michael's not going anywhere because guess what? Michael's not going anywhere.
The Accods want to make that cash.